Hello. Welcome to Elvis's podcast, which doesn't have an official name yet. We're just going to call it that for now. I got my stuff set up. I got my headphones, which don't look the best. I got to admit, I could do better. These are my gaming headphones. Got my little microphone. And I did a few episodes just a little while back with my friend Winston, who decided to not take part in the podcast anymore. He had some stuff going on. It wasn't his favorite thing, and that's totally okay. But I decided I was gonna keep going alone, so that's what I'm doing here. Originally, we were gonna talk about the teenage, I guess you could say teenage sexual experience, and not in the way like not like, oh, I got with this chick last night, not that, but more just like what's going on in this teenage hookup world, and with porn addiction, all this stuff kind of maybe contributing to a more toxic culture and young sex world. So I feel pretty passionate about talking about that subject. I think a lot of people, I don't have all the answers. I definitely don't. And I'm not perfect. I've had a lot of shitty stuff in that region of conversation. But I think maybe that makes me all the more qualified to talk about it. I've experienced it. All the things I'm going to talk about, I've definitely experienced, and if I haven't, I'll say so, and maybe I'll definitely open my mind to other views, because maybe since I haven't experienced it, I'm not the perfect person to talk about it. But yeah, I think a lot of young men need some guidance, and I hope that I can offer some or provide some. Yeah, so I'm 17 years old. I'm still in high school. I'm a senior. So I've had my fair share of experiences. And I think mainly I'm going to talk about porn addiction, at least in this episode, because I dealt with that, and I can tell you for sure that it had some big effects and has big effects on me still. So I think the main thing is, well, pornography has been a thing for a long time. Maybe in the past it wasn't regarded as super unhealthy. Cigarettes. Back in the day, actually, people thought for a little bit that cigarettes were good for the human body. I think doctors were even saying that. So I'm sure same thing happened with pornography in its early times, but now it's pretty. I think it's pretty official. Like everyone knows it's not like good. Hopefully, so it's definitely a thing that it comes in this age of social media and constant kind of stimulation to the human brain. In this day and age, we have so much stimulation at our fingertips. Like, I'm talking to my phone right now, which I've owned for probably 6 or 7 years, and just having a phone is I think a level of stimulation that's not healthy, and I think pornography falls in the same category. Yeah, we live in an age where it's hard for us to be in the present moment. some people it doesn't even cross their mind to be in the present moment. As soon as there's not something going on around them or something entertaining them or occupying them, boom, it's the phone. And I'm a victim of that too. I try to stay away from it as much as I can, and just be here and now instead of on the phone. But I can't act like I'm perfect. I'm definitely not. I must have like 5 or 6 hours a day on my phone, maybe 4. But I'm saying this because I think it's similar to pornography, which is the same kind of overstimulation whenever you need it. But that's treating sexual energy instead of the phone treats boredom or anxiety, or and pornography might also be doing that too. But I think for the most part, people are treating everybody's got sexual energy, and it's a good way to release this sexual energy and stimulate yourself without having to actually go out and take the risk of talking to somebody, meeting somebody, and I think that's very unhealthy because it really deprives us of that that caveman, that human instinct and just animal instinct to go out there and I don't know if I want to use this word, but breed. That human instinct to make children, to have sexual energy with another human being, right? And pornography kind of stands as this buffer where if you're too lazy to go out and meet another human being, you could stay home and go on your browser and get kind of almost maybe the same experience, maybe the same sexual experience or the same sexual stimulation that you would with a real person, but you can get it on your phone. And therefore, what ends up happening is that I think a lot of men, and probably a lot of women too, lose a lot of sex drive because, why go out and get it with risk and it might not work when you have it at home? Why go out and buy a burrito when you got a burrito in the freezer? And so I think I think the sexual instinct, the sexual need to go out and get what you want and get what you feel like you need is it's animal instinct, and it's healthy, it's natural, it's it's the way Mother Nature made us, and it's being altered by this wave of pornography, which also, may I say, probably won't die down anytime soon. I think it's up to the people to cut it out of their lives, and therefore these big companies won't be able to make it anymore because they won't be making any more money. But of course, if it's not us that cuts it out of our lives, it's just going to keep going on forever, and it'll probably become bigger and bigger as humans. We're moving into a time where there's going to be even more stimulation. Like you have AI rising, just instant answers to everything at your fingertips. You have VR going crazy, which will probably be adapted to with pornography as well. Probably already has been. You have this Apple Vision Pro. It's like we're going into a day and age that's starting to look a little bit like Ready Player One, the movie. And so I think I lost my train of thought. I think yes, that's right. I think it's important for us as a society around the world, as a population, to kind of come together. And even though this is such a powerful addiction, and may I say it really is, I've dealt with it before, and it's bad, And it's really hard to get yourself out of this kind of groove that a lot of people get themselves in with, no matter what addiction. But this one too is it's a pretty powerful one. And so, for the world to collectively decide, like, yeah, this is not working out for us. We gotta cut this out. We gotta go back to normal sexual activities. It's not gonna just happen with a snap of snap of my fingers, for example. It's not gonna happen because it's an addiction that spans worldwide. But I think maybe it's totally possible that there's a collective consciousness kind of coming up out of the ground. It's growing in our soil on this planet, and people are starting to maybe wake up and ask questions about the world we live in, and the stimulation that we have, and hopefully that will result in some kind of revolution, or some kind of mass decision to make a change, because I think it's really self-explanatory that if everybody were to, like, of course it's a dream scenario, but if everybody were to stop watching porn, let's say, you imagine the amount of more healthy sexual energy that would go around our world. There would be less. There would be no more of these crazy ideas that go along with sex that we have now, because porn can get pretty extreme, and so people who end up watching these pretty extreme forms of content might go out and think, well, that's what it is, and these things just aren't as raw and natural and human and connected as they're supposed to be, and so I think a lot of people are influenced by the images they see on their screen, and go out thinking that's how it is, and that's not really how it is, and it might become it could be violent. I never thought of it that way, but I know that so many people shoot, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, so I'm trying to think if I can say this or not. Yeah, so many people watch like extreme, more like hardcore forms of content, and it's definitely it's something that a lot of people imagine is how it is, and it really isn't. And I think that causes a lot of damage to our sexual experience in general. And I think if in that dream scenario that everybody would just stop watching pornography, if that were to ever happen, I think this gradually sex would come back to this more natural, raw, intimate, healthy kind of thing. And I think that would probably be very beneficial for societies, to have just more human connections, because it is sexual, but it also drains down to just human interaction and human connection. Because when you're with a partner, there's the sexual aspect, and there's just there's two humans there, and they're being together, and they're being intimate, and it's an energy that can be translated even into things that aren't sexual, into non-sexual relationships, to just be there with somebody and to just look them in the eyes and just feel their presence. And, that's the kind of energy that comes with this more healthy sexual, I don't know how to say this. this more healthy, I guess, more healthy sexual practices. Of course, different people like different things, but when it comes down to it, I think what we see on the phone screen when we're watching pornography is unhealthy, and it's usually, that's what I'm trying to say. It's usually not two humans connecting on a deeper level. It's just two people who don't know each other and are doing stuff for a video and for a big company to make money. And obviously, when it's for money and these two people don't know each other, it's not the ideal. It's really not the ideal human connection that we should all be striving for. And so if people end up watching that every day or a few times a week repeatedly and get addicted, that is the standard that they will hold their sexual relations to. This non-connected, shallow, like being fine with not knowing the person that you're doing things with. And I'm not, bashing this. I couldn't have dealt with this more. Like I'm 17 years old. I live in Los Angeles. I've had so many hookups where I was just like, man, like, not that this person in front of me isn't fantastic, but just that, like, I don't know this person, I don't know this person that I'm doing things with, and it's disturbing. And while you're in the moment, of course, it's great in some way because it's what you want in the moment. But I think whenever we deal with one of those experiences where we get really intimate with somebody we don't really know and don't really on a deeper level want to be doing this with, it hurts us. It has an effect. It has an impact, even if we don't think it does, because it's like we've given our sacred intimacy and our sacred privacy and our sacred energy, because like this sexual energy is very different than just having a conversation with somebody. It's you're close with somebody, and there's tension, and it's very intimate. And to give that up like a commodity, it stays in your body, it stays in your system, this idea that you really just you gave up your body for somebody who you didn't really know and didn't have a real connection with. And when deep down, even if you're not aware of it in the moment, subconsciously, what we all want is a deep connection with another human being. We don't want this shallow thing. Even in the moment, we do. Maybe in the moment we do want it. I've had a few drinks. I'm at a party. I'm like, dang, like that is what I want right now. I want a shallow connection with somebody. I want to go do something shallow, but on a deeper level, I think we're all after a more real connection with another human being. And every time we disregard that and just go for the shallow thing, I think it stays in our system that we did that, and it has an effect on us throughout the rest of our life. I've had so many experiences where I'm there with a girl, and in the moment I'm like, this is so what I want, like this is great. We're both having a great time, but then the next day I'm like, fuck, like why did I do that? And it has nothing to do even with the other person who's right in front of me. It has everything to do with me, and that I did something with somebody I wasn't really connected with, and somebody who I don't really know on a deeper level, and I think a lot of people deal with that and kind of go through life without ever getting a hold of these real connections, because they're so accustomed to a world where these more shallow connections are easier to strive for, are less painful. You don't have to deal with heartbreak, and are more normalized. With pornography, it's so normalized because that's all there is on pornography. It's just these shallow connections. Not even, shouldn't even say connections. It's just shallow. And so when you see that so often on your phone screen, and you become accustomed even to being aroused by that kind of connection, it kind of it discards the idea of having a deeper relationship with somebody. Even if that's what you really want deep down, your brain takes over and begins to tell you that's not what you want. You want something shallow, because that's what you like to see every day, and that's what you watch, and so that's what you want, and that's what you need. That's what you need to be aroused. And all in all, it comes to a point where it's really unfortunate. And if we could all, stop watching that stuff and come to that place where we are able to have these deeper connections with people, and these more meaningful, like, connected experiences, I think it benefits, mental health. I think it's super healthy as human beings. I think it's what Mother Nature wanted us to do. Cavemen didn't have phones, didn't have magazines. Cavemen were just out there like, oh my God, like, I feel all this tension and this sexual energy. I need to go put it somewhere. Now let's hope they asked before they put it somewhere, but it was still this natural strive for sex, and it was not this unnatural, disconnected strive. And when you come to that place where you're able to have these better experiences with another person, these deeper connections, where you can really look in somebody's eyes and feel who they are, and you see them, you see this person. You're not just looking at them, but you see them. I think that translates to so many other things in this world. Let me see if I can put that more specifically. That's definitely very broad, very vague. So people, So people who are, there's a lot of people who feel lonely in this world, and I want to say that's not the same thing as being alone. I think being alone and being lonely are two completely different things. But there's a lot of people who feel lonely. They want to put their love somewhere, and they want somebody to give them love. And, of course, that could be a cause of things in childhood, etc. But that definitely is amplified by this wave of this trend of shallow sex. Because you want to put your love somewhere, and you want to receive somebody else's love, and that's never going to happen with somebody you don't really know, and with somebody you're not really connecting with on an animal, instinctual, soul level, because that's where all the fulfillment comes from in somebody's life. When you're able to just see somebody for who they are and have empathy and love them despite what they look like, despite what they can offer you. Just love who they are and be attracted to their presence and their soul. And, if you can have that will, I think that's the dream of every person who feels alone. So, these shallow connections that porn accentuates, is a big amplifier for this lonely feeling, and it's it probably causes loneliness for a lot of people, and which also sucks. Like being lonely sucks. Maybe I shouldn't speak on that, because I don't know if I've experienced that too much. I've always been I've always kind of been a solitary person, and would sometimes rather be, actually a lot of the time I'd rather be alone than around other people. But I've never really felt too lonely in that aspect. Felt pretty content being by myself, etc. But a lot of people, even in a crowd, feel lonely. You could have somebody who's at the top. Celebrities, a lot of celebrities feel extremely lonely because all these people. That's what it is. All these people love you, but they don't love you. They love this image of you. They have this more of like a shallow adoration or a shallow, shallow adoration of you, and that's unfulfilling. And that's super similar to this wave of unhealthy, shallow sexual relations. And of course that will all exist. That's always going to exist. These feelings of loneliness, etc. All these different human feelings and experiences will always exist, no matter whether pornography is prevalent or not. But I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I know that pornography is probably reaching an all-time high. And in, let's say, a time like quarantine, can you imagine the impact it had on people's brains and people's feelings? When we were stuck in our houses for, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 years. I'm gonna go with 2 years. And we were stuck in our house for 2 years. We were not really even allowed to go out. And I'd be willing to bet so much that people were on pornography every day. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's we're humans. We're not perfect. That's what we gravitated to. A lot of people who probably were not with a significant other, such as myself. I definitely did during quarantine. I definitely gravitated towards that, and it definitely had a huge negative impact on the way I view the world, on the way I view women, on the way I view all my sexual relations. And I mean, if you can just picture the impact that this kind of this kind of content creates in a time where we're all stuck in our house, and that's all we have to rely on, and that's our only reference. For a lot of young people growing up during quarantine and coming into puberty and becoming sexually energized, that was how they learned what this sex thing is. And that was their only reference, and that was their only way to release their sexual energy. And I'm one of those people, and it had a big impact on a lot of the things in my life. I'm thankful that I was able to see that there's something wrong with relating to sex that way, in the today's pornographical way. And I'm grateful that I was able to distance myself from that and realize that that's not how it is. But even still, I feel its impact on me because my brain was developing like so many other people's in this time when I wasn't allowed to leave my house, and I was in a dark room, and I was on online school, and I would wake up and stay in my bed all day, or I'd wake up and play video games with my friends all day, and I was already sulking in my own, I guess, depression, because there was no more school. I couldn't see my friends anymore. I was already dealing with this sort of this difficulty of just having to be trapped in my house, and on top of that, I was feeding my brain this horrible pornographic content every day, which definitely had a big impact. And I can't even imagine right now. I don't know if we see the effects. I mean, we definitely do. There's a lot of there's a lot of bad sexual stuff going on, especially, well, I was going to say especially in America, but actually no, it's all around the world, of course. But I know so many girls my age who, I'm not going to say names, but I've heard so many stories of girls who have dealt with sexual abuse and sexual harassment and things more extreme than that, so much more extreme, or those things in the most extreme level, the most extreme variation of those things. And of course, it's these kinds of things are also inflicted upon men, but mostly women. And these women that I know, they dealt with these things with men my age, and 17, 18 years old, maybe 19, and I think it really, there's this wave of very, with men, there's this very dangerous sexual energy, and I'm gonna put the blame on pornography, because we all went through a 1 or 2 year period where we were stuck in our houses and we were feeding our brain this super unhealthy image of what it should be. And so that's what we became accustomed to. And I think a lot of men are out there still trying to chase this extreme image that they saw on the screen. And therefore, a lot of girls are dealing with some pretty bad things from a lot of men, and I'm sure a lot of men are also dealing with that, and it's sad. That's a super traumatic a super traumatic time in anybody's life. I feel horrible for all the people who have come to me and told me, decided to be vulnerable with me and told me their experience with their bad sexual experiences. And every time I think, this is so hard, because this person's probably going to be in therapy later in their lives for exactly what they just told me, just because some guy or some girl decided that their need for well, I guess this might not directly relate to pornography, but their need for this sexual energy to be released was more important than another person's agreement to this sexual energy being released. And of course, maybe that probably doesn't relate directly to pornography, but I think that unhealthy view on sex that we adopted from watching pornography so much definitely contributes to that unhealthy release of sexual energy, which sometimes becomes anger or sadness, and anger and sadness are beautiful emotions, and all emotions are beautiful, but sexual energy isn't naturally released through anger. It's released through intimacy and connection with another person. And so these are definitely, the way it's happening today a lot is very unhealthy for especially one side of the party who's not agreeing with what's going on, or who didn't give their consent, or who's being forced into something. And I know it's probably not said a lot, but the person who's inflicting this, the perpetrator, will deal with a lot of trauma from these events too, even though it was their decision and they're the person who's inflicting the harm on somebody else. They're going to struggle with living with that for the rest of their lives, even if they're resistant to that feeling. It's, once you do that to somebody, once you treat another person that way, it never leaves. It's like the soldiers who come back from the army and say, once you've killed somebody, your life will never be the same. Once you've taken another person's life, you'll never forget it. It's always going to be there in your system that somebody else didn't get to live the rest of their life because of you. And that's, that's a more extreme version than, forcing yourself on somebody else sexually, but it's still the same thing. Even though it's less extreme with sex, it's the same it's the same feeling. It's that you did something horrible to somebody who didn't want it to be done to them, just for your pleasure, and unless you have like a condition where you don't feel empathy, that's gonna stay in your system, and that's never gonna leave. And whether you decide to deal with it and go to therapy or not, it's there, and it has an impact on the way you act. So yeah, man. Yeah. Let me see if I have anything else to say about the topic. I don't know if I also don't know if I want my episodes to be an hour or less. I guess this is the first episode I'm doing alone, so it doesn't exactly have to be an hour. But let me see if there's anything else maybe that I want to say about this topic. Yeah, all it is that I think it would just be a way better world to live in if women and men didn't have to deal with that kind of trauma. And how beautiful would it be to live in a world where we could do everything with consent from the other person, and where we didn't have to worry about other people forcing themselves on women or men, and where we could just know that people valued raw human connection on a deeper, soulful level. That would be beautiful. And hopefully, the reason I'm talking about this is I hope I can make a difference. I hope I can turn around some minds, turn some eyes, because there might not be a lot of representation for this kind of topic in my age group of teenagers. I'm pushing. I just turned 17. Next year I'm going to be 18, and this definitely, this high school, middle school, college age group doesn't have a lot of people in that age speaking out about this stuff. And what I hope is that maybe if it's it's easier to listen to, and maybe hopefully more inspiring to hear somebody your own age talking about this kind of thing, somebody that you can relate to, somebody that can relate to you, because I can relate to you. And hopefully you can relate to me, and that makes it easier for you to look at what I'm talking about objectively, and open, have a more open mind about it. And because of course it's always great to hear these older guys who definitely know what they're talking about, probably even more than I do, talk about this. But it might be easier for a lot of people to listen to somebody they can relate to more. So, like people in my age group might be able to relate to me more than some super expert guy who's, old in the older ages, who's probably more qualified but less relatable for my age of people. So yeah, anyways, this is my first episode. I hope it was helpful. And I hope it was, fun to listen to. I don't just want to be helpful. I hope that I can also have some more fun, less sobering conversations. And I'm going to try to get guests on. I know a lot of people who would love to speak about this kind of stuff, who have a lot to say. Yeah. Thank you for listening in. This is the first episode of Elvis's solo podcast. I still don't have a name. It hasn't come to my mind in these past 40 minutes, but I will think of it before I make the next episode, and I will announce it in the next episode. Thank you.